So I've gotten a lot of questions about sample libraries this week. A lot of people are asking, what are some free tools maybe to recommend to students or people who are just starting out and want to be learning more about how to use sample instruments and orchestral instruments and stuff like that? I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. So there's a whole bunch of deep, niche-y, smaller developers who make really, really amazing samples that I could be covering, but I'm trying to focus on some of the more broad companies, some of the bigger companies, to try to get people started as quickly as possible. Maybe in the future I can talk about some of these other more niche-y companies, and if that's something people want to see, send a comment below and I'll make some of those videos and I'll go a little bit deeper on some of the weirder stuff. Before I go too deep, I do want to say that single sample, everything we're going to be talking about comes from a hard-working, living, breathing, creative human being. And this person has been passionate about their work, and they have bills and they have a family, and basically, even though it's free, this stuff takes time and it costs money to produce. So I want everybody to be able to start making music at the beginning with as low a bar of entry. But at some point, if you've been doing this a while, you shouldn't be afraid to save up a little bit of money and support some of these developers, especially when you start running into some limitations. Maybe you're looking for sounds that you can't currently do with the free stuff. That's where some of the more expensive libraries come in. Sometimes quality costs a little bit of money. With that said, everything that we're going to be talking about sounds really awesome. And for the sounds that we're going to talk about, I would be totally comfortable using any of them in a professional capacity. Everything is professional quality, high quality. So the first one we're going to talk about is Project Sam's The Free Orchestra. Now, Project Sam has been around for a long time. I remember when I was first starting out, they were the top of the heap for sample libraries with their Symphobia series, which still sound really good, by the way. And because they have so much experience, their free samples just really have a beautiful sound, beautifully mixed, and a wonderfully unique sort of tone that is really usable in a lot of film scoring and video game and different sort of scoring capacities. Now, one of the things about the free orchestra is it really sort of seems to be built to stack different sounds on top of each other and really make sort of unique tones based on different sections being played at the same time. That's really sort of what it seems to be set up to do. It's not as much a strict orchestral setup, with the violins here and the violas here and so on, as other orchestral libraries. But it's very modern, very awesome sounding sample library. Okay, so you can see that I'm using the free Contact Player for this. It's fully functional in the Contact Player. Now, the free orchestra, it's really sort of set up for to be stacking and layering different sounds and different groups together. It's not as much made for individual sections and individual melodies and stuff like that. You can see right now that I have the Sordino violins playing right now, which sound like this. Really pretty. They're nicely usable with the mod wheel. I also have this sort of low brass kind of thing playing. It's got a nice sort of background quality to it, which is really good for cinematic sort of underscore. I've got these basses. Oops, sorry about the crackle. So it's basses and low brass as well. There's also nice sounding short strings. Totally usable, totally cinematic with that. And there's a whole bunch more that I'm not going to get too deep into. There's nice sounding horns, big hits, beautiful organ, some sound designy type stuff, some hits, and a choir as well. In my opinion, it's really made to be stacking and layering different instruments together and making unique textures from that. So you can see I just quickly whipped up this little low patch. Sounds great. So that's all right out of the thing with no mixing, no reverb or anything like that. The next one I'm going to talk about is Pallete Primary Colors by Red Room Audio. Now this is maybe a little lesser known, but I think that the way it's split up into sections is really, really useful for people starting out, and it just sounds really, really good. To be free, you know, it's amazing. Now there's one technicality. You need the full version of Contact for this. So if you don't have the full version of Contact, it's not free. But if you already do have the full version of Contact, which costs about $200, give or take, then it's totally free and anybody should download it and get it onto their computer because it sounds awesome. You can see there's a sustain and a staccato for each of the major melodic orchestral groups. So we have a string sustain, wind sustain, string staccato, wind staccato, and brass sus and stock as well. I just whipped up a little song in about 5 minutes. No mixing or reverb or anything like that. So this one is really good for students to be trying out different sound palettes, different ranges in the orchestral groups and stuff like that. I think it's a really, really strong collection of sounds. And the last one I'm going to talk about is Orchestral Tools. Now this comes out of the Sine player, and Orchestral Tools is currently one of the best sample companies in the world. Everything they produce sounds incredible at a totally high quality, and their free samples are no exception. They've got really good pianos, really good sort of quirkier instruments, good percussion sounds, good organ, and even their strings and their flute and their brass sound pretty good. So this is definitely something that everybody should be using because especially some of their samples are just perfect for a variety of situations. We've got a whole bunch. I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm not even sure that I downloaded all of them, but I got most of the ones that seemed really, really exciting to me. So the first one is a really beautiful grand piano. I think it just has a nice kind of clean, flat tone. I actually prefer a piano that isn't too colored and doesn't sound too specific. So that way you can EQ it and you can add reverb on your own. You can sort of shape it to sound like how you want it. So this is a totally good sounding piano that I would use in a heartbeat. We also have a felt piano, also from Orchestral Tools. Now, there's another famous felt piano, and I think that this one sounds pretty much just as good, if not better. Nice, soft. Nice, soft, sort of film score kind of quality to the piano. I love it. I would use it on anything that needed that sound. Now we have some full strings. So with the full string ensemble, we have a spiccato patch, which is like a staccato on some other ones. Oh, I think I still have the piano playing. Yep. So it's like a staccato. Sounds really, really good. Very cinematic. We also have a sustain patch. Sounds really good for slower type stuff. Nicely mod wheel sensitive. Just a really, really nice thing. Now, you're not going to be able to do great melodies with this patch. You're probably going to need a different instrument for that. But for that sort of harmonic stuff, really, really strong and really, really great. We have a flute. Now, they call this the jazz flute, but I think you could totally use it in a variety of orchestral settings. It's got a little more vibrato than you might find in some orchestral flutes, but it sounds really good. And you add a little bit of reverb to it, you could totally fit it into a variety of orchestral capacities. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is the brass section. Now, this is actually has some of the most articulations out of all of them. Staccatissimo. It's really sort of, this one's more geared up for big band kind of quality. But like I said with the flute, if you add a little bit of your own reverb, especially if you have sort of a more sort of cinematic style reverb, it's gonna feel orchestral if you do it right. Nice collection of various articulations. There isn't as much of a flat sustain as I probably would have liked, but you could probably use one of the other patches for that. So, totally strong set of tools. I would be totally happy writing an entire piece or even album using only these instruments. So the last thing I want to say is that I am going to be giving some money to Mermaids UK, which is a trans youth organization in the United Kingdom. I encourage everybody to click the link below, maybe chip in a few bucks, and be on the lookout. There might be some other projects where we're maybe trying to raise some money for them or for similar causes. Thank you very much.